This is The Baseline, discussing the hot button topics of the NBA.
Welcome, everybody. You're tuned to The Baseline. Callie, Warren Shaw, discussing the hot button topics of the NBA. And this is our 2018-19 preview of the Pacific Division. Division, as my man Jabari would put it, of the haves and the have-nots. And we got a lot to discuss with these five teams that are handling the Pacific Rim. So let me go ahead and roll out the red carpet to my right-hand man, 50 grand, www.shawsports.net, Big Kahuna PNC, my brother from another mother, Mr. Warren Shaw, repping out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Holla back at me, Mr. Shaw. After our conversations about the Southeast, are you feeling a little more energetic about talking about the Western Conference teams in the Pacific Division?
You know what it is, brother. It's always great to talk NBA basketball. I'm energetic, and I can't wait to jump right in. We busting out, all the friends of the shows for the previews, and we got another great guest on here, great homie, who's looked out for us on many occasions, knows the Western Conference and Lakers very, very specifically. But I'll go ahead and let you introduce him, homie.
Yeah, listen, this man needs no introduction. You see him do his thing on Twitter, on all of the social media platforms. He's got a great podcast going on as well, too. Our man Jabari Davis is going to be hopping on board in the next few moments, and he's going to help us break down the Pacific Division. So we got a lot to discuss with those teams out there in the West. And as always, we appreciate you and yours for truly sticking and rolling with the Baseline crew. Be sure to get my man Shaw at Shaw Sports NBA, or get at me at Game Face Lead, the show's Twitter handle at NBA Baseline. We're available on all the major platforms. You know where to find us. We're also exclusive on Dash Radio through the Nothing But Net Radio Network. So be sure to check out the Baseline NBA podcast Tuesdays, 9 a.m. We're giving you the butter goods. We're getting you ready for this upcoming NBA season like no other podcast should. So you know how we do, and you know how we roll. Let's get down talking about that Pacific Division here on the Baseline NBA podcast.
Time to break it
I
down.
break it down to the bone gristle.
Time now for the breakdown. Callie, Warren Shaw of the Baseline NBA podcast as we continue our coverage for the 2018-19 NBA season. And it's time for us to break down the Pacific Division, or as I would call it, the Pacific Rim. Listen, man, it's always great to have our boy, our brother. I consider him like a brother from another mother as well, too, man. I mean, he holds it down out there. In the West Coast. He covers the NBA like no other. Our man, Jabari Davis, if you don't know who he is, I mean, he has just been doing it big time, writing great pieces covering the NBA for quite some time. You can always catch him at Twitter, at Jabari Davis NBA. Jabari, man, welcome back. How's life under witness protection?
Honestly, thank you definitely for having me on again. Always great to catch up with you guys. Honestly, I'm just ready to get the ball rolling. I noticed on the timeline somebody mentioned that in certain cases media day is in 4 days, and after a long summer, even though we had plenty of stuff that took place, I'm excited to get the ball rolling.
Well, listen, we're excited to get you on so that you can get the ball rolling for us to break down this quagmire of a division, man. It's the division of two extremes, at least in my opinion. You could have the best of the best in this division, literally, and you can also have the worst of the worst. And there's very, very little in between. There's no Middle Earth when we talk about the Pacific Division. So as we always begin, man, the first thing I want to do, Jabari, is get your thoughts about what the Pacific Division, how it looked last year. What were your extensive thoughts about how the division represented itself this past season? Obviously, you can't represent any better than having the team that wins the championship coming out of the division. But for all the other teams that was there, what were the highlights? What were the lowlights when we talk about the specific division?
Well, I mean, really, it kind of like it was as you just described it, but to a more extreme. It was the haves and the have-nots. The Warriors were the haves. We know how that song ended. Everybody else was the have-nots. Everybody else was in the time of transition. When you look at the Lakers, for instance. Obviously, they weren't anywhere near, quote unquote, back last year, but they actually had a pretty surprising, relatively successful, if I'm not mistaken, 35-win season. And that was on the heels of a 26-win season, the year prior to that, which was, if I'm not mistaken, just after a 17-win season. So you saw the natural, progression. But, look, it wasn't as though necessarily, like at the end of the year, any of us were sitting here, counting our chickens and like guaranteeing that LeBron James would see that and then say, yeah, I want to be a part of that. So, really, kind of across the board. So, the jury's still out, and I guess we'll see.
All right, so let's get right into it. Let's start talking about the 2018-19 Pacific Division. And, obviously, Jabbar, you've been with us and we've done this before. We work from the bottom up. So we're going to start with the team that finished last in division. And realistically, they were the worst team in the NBA, and that was the Phoenix Suns, a team that finished 21-61 last season. Obviously there is changes that were made, losing Earl Watson as the coach and then running with Jay Triano as the interim coach until the end of the season. They decided to go in a different direction, and they are now going with Igor Kokoskov. And I'm sure, even the difficulty of speaking his last name might even translate some of the difficulties that this team may experience with a new head coach, with a new style and a new system. But Jabari, man, the thing that really stands out to me more than anything, and obviously the big news is about Devin Booker. He has hand surgery, so he's going to be out for an extended period of time. But nobody's talking about their top overall draft pick, DeAndre Ayton. And I find that a little curious, right? For a team that's been as bad as the Phoenix Suns over the last few seasons, usually there's a lot of hype and momentum leading into the season about them having the number one overall draft pick and it being about this guy, DeAndre Ayton, out of Arizona. But really, all the focus and attention was basically how the air got taken out of the room because of Devin Booker having hand surgery and being out, for the next couple of months. Why is it so difficult for us to hone in on being optimistic about this Phoenix Suns team?
Well, I mean, I think it's a matter of we've seen how they've gone over the last couple of years. They had that one surprise year, if I'm not mistaken, it was in Hornacek's first year. What was that, about 4 or 5 years ago now? But ever since then, they've been at the bottom of the barrel, even though they have a guy that looks like he's going to be one of the better young scorers, moving forward. Obviously in Devin Booker. But to your point on Ayton, I'm not exactly sure what's going on there either. In fact, I'm not sure if you heard this. If I'm not mistaken, last week or over the last couple of weeks, there were reports that they're still considering that the plan going in is to start Tyson Chandler at the center position. The fact that earlier in the summer they were talking about, hey, can they be the next, this, that, and the other, with the nice 1-2 punch, and then to the point where now not really hearing much about him. What it makes me think is maybe they wanted to pump the brakes a little bit with him. Maybe they, and this is totally speculation. I'm not, throwing it out there, but I'm saying, just based on what we've seen, maybe it's a matter of wanting to make sure that he's emotionally ready, make sure that he's ready to be, ready for that challenge of being a professional at this level on a night in and night out basis. So maybe, maybe they want to motivate him, to a certain degree. I'm not exactly certain, but I'm just as confused as you, to be honest.
This team is very confusing, as you alluded to. You look at their numbers: 30th in offensive rating, 30th in defensive rating. They were lower third, I think maybe 27th or 28th in backcourt scoring, with Devin Booker averaging 25 points a game. That is just like it's an anomaly. That's crazy to me. That's the situation. Dead last in points in the paint because they don't have anybody who can really throw the ball down to. And then you allude to this Tyson Chandler situation with DeAndre Ayton. It is very confusing to me because I look at this roster. You have Chandler there, right? You have Ayton there. You brought in Trevor Ariza. You brought in Ryan Anderson. And CL and I go back and forth about this all the time. How many damn veterans do you need on a team when you have these young guys who you need to get minutes for? So how many of those guys play, or how many of those guys are just locker room players, and that's just to kind of help teach culture and teach the ways of being in the NBA? And at some point, I think you can overdo it when you bring in those types. What is your feeling, Jabari, in general, in terms of the Phoenix roster of having this huge mix of young guys, but now this kind of conglomerate of veteran guys who still, in a lot of ways, want to play? You can't tell me that Ariza doesn't expect to play. You can't tell me that Chandler doesn't expect to play as well as Ryan Anderson.
I think it really just depends on which veterans you get. Like, you can like you can be like the Lakers a few years ago and go out there and say, oh, we're just gonna go out, we're gonna jump out the window and pay Luol Deng and Mozgov all this money. And yes, technically they're veterans in the sense that they've been in the league for a long period of time. And I guess there were no stories out there of anybody outside of Danny Ferry, disliking either, in either of those two. But it doesn't look like like when you look at how things actually worked out practically, it didn't make a lot. It doesn't appear to have made a lot of sense. So bringing it back to the Suns, look, I understand if Tyson Chandler wants to play, and I respect that. And no disrespect to to a Los Angeles, LA native, but that's too bad. If I'm, Coach Call for, and no disrespect if I mispronounce his name, but if I'm running this team, I'm looking at what team is going to, what lineups and what rotations will help me the most in the future, because it isn't like this is a team that's ready to go right now. It isn't like this is a team that under any realistic level of expectation should anticipate having a playoff. So if for me, hey, it might be ugly, but I'm playing DeAndre Ayton as much as I can. But some of those other guys like Ryan Anderson, I guess if he's hitting shots, yes, of course you're going to use him, but there's no way in the world that he, like his playing time, you should be cutting into the development, the potential development of these younger guys.
I I'm definitely confused with this basketball team as well too. I think all around we're all like kind of scratching our heads and we're trying to figure out, is this supposed to be a rebuilding project or is this um you know kind of like a prep school basketball team
Huh.
where you look at you seriously, like, because you know how some schools are built where there's a transition from JV to varsity,
Mhm.
and then there's some schools where they'll just make it a mosh pit, and survival of the fittest, whoever comes out of this. And it just concerns me that I don't know of whether or not you're putting some of these young players in the best position to succeed, if because it's not as if you're putting them in front of absolute um absolute winners. Okay.
Mhm.
Some of these guys were great role players, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they are bookend type players that are supposed to help, build up the younger talent to be the cornerstones for the franchise for the next 5 or 6 years.
I definitely see where you're coming from, but I guess I'll say it, and and I can already imagine folks in the Valley of the Sun, obviously Suns fans, their collective minds blowing right now. I guess we have to wait and see what it actually looks like, because like all of this could totally be just rampant speculation in the sense that we don't know what the rotation, what they kind of what they really have in the works, or if they're going to be vet heavy, or if they're going to really really ride with the younger guys. But if we're say 2-3 months from now, and we are noticing that they're not they're still not a winning team, but they're still relying heavily upon the vets, and we're not seeing opportunities being given to these younger guys, then I think a legitimate right can be made.
So for me, it's interesting because of Tyson Chandler, and finish off that point on him. He's played 46 and 47 games respectively the last 2 years. They start off the season, that's their guy. Then they shut him down like right around All Star break or right afterwards, and then they play. I just don't see the reason to potentially go through that same cycle again, especially when you have 8 in there. But I digress. There's other questions about this team, and we definitely got to move on. I don't spend too much time on the last place team in the division, but Josh Jackson, T.J. Warren. Where do you see that position battle going? Mikal Bridges, you can throw his name in there as well. We know Phoenix is also in the hunt for a point guard. Who do you think stands out of that point guard race? But first, your thoughts on Jackson and T.J. Warren and Bridges in that position battle.
It's tough. I'm not going to lie to you, because neither one of those guys did enough in order to really differentiate for me. I mean, Jackson, he came on, toward the end of the year. Obviously, he can wreak havoc in the open court. He's a defender. He's long. He's wiry. The jury's still out on what he's going to be offensively, or if he's going to be able to develop, a more well-rounded offensive arsenal. TJ Warren, you're going to get offense from him. I'm not saying that he's not a defender, but he definitely looks like a guy that looks like a guy that focuses more on the offensive end. So maybe and with Bridges, same deal. Maybe it's a matter of they're just going to roll those guys out there and see if anybody can rise to the top, or simply just kind of do it by platoon.
All right, let's go ahead and talk Westgate odds. Jabari, I'm going to start with you. Westgate has the Phoenix Suns at 29 wins. Are you taking the over and under on the Phoenix Suns?
All right, so it isn't that I don't want to be disrespectful to the Suns, because I know it can probably sound like we're all of us are coming down on them. But the truth of the matter is, even if I do envision them being a 29-30 win team, what's tough about it is the West is so strong, and I know it almost sounds cliche because we say it every year, but really the West got in my opinion significantly stronger once again, and it's top to bottom. There's really, in my opinion, there's no terrible teams in the West, but at the end of the day, there's so many good teams. Your eventual record can look like a terrible team. I'm going to take the under, but it isn't because I don't think the Suns can improve, because I do think that they're improving. It's simply because I still don't think they stack up with the rest of the West.
All right, talk to me, Shaw.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm with Jabari here. I mean, I want to believe, and I want to think, okay, this team can make a step forward, because I do believe in the potential and prowess of Devin Booker as an all-around NBA player. But him being out to potentially begin the first couple games of the year, I think that could set him back. I don't like when they force him to play the point guard position, and without a true guy to kind of step up for them right now between Okobo, Melton, Shaquille Harrison, even Isaiah Cannon. Booker may have the ball in his hand as a creator more than as a shot maker, and that I think takes away from the best skill he has, which is obviously shooting and scoring. I think they're going to have to answer those questions, and I think it's going to be slightly under, as Jabari said, because the overall talent in the West just got that much.
All right, you're tuned to the Baseline. Callie, Warren Shaw, discussing the hot button topics of the NBA, our 2018-19 preview of the Pacific Division with our special guest, Jabari Davis. Be sure to check him on Twitter at Jabari Davis NBA. So let's go ahead and talk about the team that finished fourth in the division, and that would be the Sacramento Kings. They finished with a 27-55 record. Dave Yeager obviously had a lot to work with this roster, much like most of these two teams that finished at the bottom portion of the Pacific Division. And I guess when you talk about the Sacramento Kings, this has just been a struggling franchise. Obviously, a lot happened, especially going towards the end of last season, amidst the controversy that took place regarding the death of one of the Sacramento residents. And I guess the one glimmer of hope that they had is that, a lot of people galvanized around the Sacramento Kings as they showed they can bond together, they can gather together, even if as not a successful basketball team, that they are still a part of the community. And maybe that's the one thing that they do have going for them, that while they have an owner who doesn't really know what he's doing, you can at least be rest assured that you got guys that want to play, they want to compete. I think they're pointed in the right direction with De'Aaron Fox. And Shaw, I'm going to start with you when we talk about this. There has to be a starting point for the Sacramento Kings. Where can you look to find that in the second season of Dave Yeager being the head coach?
I mean, I think you have to throw all your hopes into the development and potential growth of Marvin Bagley. You hope that Harry Giles comes back and is the talent that he proved to be coming out of college, coming in from high school to college, and then, even in the 1 year that he's played. Those two guys who I think they're really going to be looking forward to try to build on, and the ultimate progression of Buddy Hield. They bet on that guy. They need him to really become potentially a starter in the league. And he's still a slider right now, I think, to come off the bench, and maybe he can be a six-man candidate type of situation. But I think it has to start with guys like Bagley, Giles even, and Hield. Those are the three, I think, guys I look at the most. And I'm not disrespecting De'Aaron Fox at all. I think he's electric. Obviously, he's very quick. But I don't know where he's at in terms of being able to be an elite scorer on this league. So he's going to be playmaking. He's got to, make better decisions offensively when he has the ball in his hands. I think those other three guys really have to step things up, because this team, they struggle in a lot of categories, 28th or something like that in defensive rating, 20 and 29th in offensive rating. But they did have one of the best benches in the league last year. They led in bench scoring, so I guess that's cool, but that's because their starters were ineffective. So Yeager's got to figure out the rotations, I think, to start off with. But pick one of those or all of those three guys potentially to be the dude.
Yeah, honestly, those are all excellent points, and I absolutely would have started with De'Aaron Fox, because look, I'm not being a hater, but I saw a whole lot of sizzle and not a lot of steak. And what I mean by that is, yes, he's electric. Yes, he had those games where all of a sudden he was all over the court, making plays, getting into the passing lane, getting out in transition, and wrecking some havoc. But then I also saw a lot of games where, and yes, I actually actively watched Sacramento Kings basketball last year. And I saw a lot of
Well, you
games.
can you
It's
can
like,
you
oh,
can
hey,
do that when you're in witness protection. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a whole lot of people are gonna know that you actually with the eagle eye over them. But yeah.
hey, there you go, there you go. But no, seriously. And now here's the thing: somebody can hear that and say, "Well, yeah, he's a rookie guard," and yes, you absolutely anticipate that with a rookie point guard. But the question is, can he take the next step? What did his off season look like? Did he continue to work on his body? He's never going to be a huge guy, but obviously, we've seen, especially with young guards, we've seen them be able to transition and kind of convert themselves into a more productive player simply by having proper offseason proper offseason regimen. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they can be. Obviously, I'm intrigued by Marvin Bagley. It is absolutely cliche, but the sky does seem to be the limit. But let me see what that's going to look like on a night in, night out basis. All right, so and that brings me to Buddy Hield, and I'm not trying to be mean about this guy, but this is also the same owner that referred to him as Steph Curry light, or like his own Steph Curry. And last I checked, Steph wasn't coming off the bench in year 3 or 4. Not trying to be a jerk about it. All I'm saying is look, he may ultimately take the next step and become that elite scorer, wing guy. Obviously, a deep threat. Or he could be exactly what he looks like right now, which is a run-of-the-mill Sacramento King, wing player.
Well, Shaw, why do you think that it's such a struggle for Buddy Hield? Just the simple fact that he is just not even a consistent enough shooter for a Sacramento teams that I'm very much sure if they're in the bottom half of most of the offensive categories, that if the one thing that they can at least improve upon is they have themselves somebody that can shoot the basketball, why does it seem to be such a struggle for him to be able to do something that he really came out of college being known and recognized for as being quote unquote that first baby Steph Curry, like with his shooting capability?
Well, I think that the fit was interesting in New Orleans when he was drafted, and like I don't know if he got the proper run that he was supposed to get there initially. That team had some issues going into that. Then they moved him to Sacramento in the middle of the season, so he had a full year last year to acclimate. And you would have hoped it would have been better, and he had some flashes, games where he strung some things together. But you're right, consistency has always been a problem, and you just have to stem that things from confidence more than one, because he's not necessarily a younger player. I mean, he played what 3 years there, before coming into the NBA draft or whatever. So, he's a kid I'm rooting for, but I definitely can see where there's questions about his overall development, and what type of player is he ultimately going to be. I think in some cases, I think I read it somewhere, some people are saying best case scenario they see for him is maybe JJ Redick. He could maybe be in that type of mold, but he doesn't play the defense that Redick does, or doesn't have that same effort, that same grittiness that JJ Redick does either. So is he just going to be a scorer? And I'm looking to see. I think this is a year. This is a year that has to turn around, and he has to be that guy. Otherwise, like Jabari is saying, it might be time to write him off. But I say all of that and go back into another guy that's on this team who I'm still waiting for him to develop, and that's Willie Cauley-Stein. Willie Cauley-Stein, Scott Labissiere, what's going on with any of these players in the Sacramento roster and this team? With Harry Giles now coming back and hopefully healthy, he may push one or two of those guys out of the lineup and maybe even off the team in some cases if Sacramento looks and says, you know what, maybe we may want to cut bait right now on Trill and try to get something, for our losses, so to speak. Jabari, where do you stand on those guys too, like Labissiere and Cauley-Stein?
I think Scal is the better of the two players. I think, and this is no disrespect to Willie Cauley-Stein. I think he's a journeyman big man that will probably stay in the league for the next 5, 10 years, for a 10, 12, 15-year career, depending upon how healthy he stays.
So let me ask you a real quick question. Interject. Sorry for that, but with Trill, do you get like Jordan Hill vibes a little bit? Maybe just a guy who seems and like has the physical tools, but just isn't realizing the potential. And do you think it's a mental situation there, or is it just he's just not as good as people advertise initially?
Maybe a combination of both. I mean, oftentimes it's what you said at the end in terms of most of these most guys just by nature, because we hype all rookies and all prospects up to be the great the greatest thing since sliced bread. And then when they fall short, we're mad at them when in reality our expectations were potentially just too high for them. So with him, like I said, I think it's a combination of both. I do get the vibe, like the Jordan. It's funny. That's a good comparison because I do get that same vibe. Not that's not to question intellect in any way, but in terms of not everybody has what it takes to kind of hold it together for extended periods of time, and that's really usually what makes the difference between the good players and the great players, and the great players and the incredible players. It's a matter of being able to harness it and hold it together, and do it consistently. Not saying that it's impossible, just saying that, hey, look, it's been 4 or 5 years and we haven't seen it yet. So, you know,
All right. Well, it looks like we've covered the Sacramento Kings quite extensively. Real quick, Jabari, we haven't brought up this guy's name, but I am really curious on what did you think of Bogdan Bojanovic and what he did this past season, and what would your expectations be for him for this upcoming season? Can't to me, I feel like he's a sleeper. As far as being one of those high end, high quality type performers on a poor basketball team. Do you think that he takes a step back, or do you think he takes a step forward this season?
well, I see no reason for him to take a step back because you're still going to have every opportunity. If I'm not mistaken, right now he's still currently slotted to start for them. And and he's a productive guy. I'll refer to it as everybody needs a Joe Ingles guy. And I'm not comparing him to Joe Ingles, but like kind of as you mentioned, that glue guy, the guy that he's multifaceted, in terms of his game. You can kind of do a little bit of everything out there, and he's also a guy that's not going to, he's not going to, get ahead of, get over his skis.
Shaw, I see him as kind of like a kind of a mini Stojakovic, and maybe in ways they're trying to conjure up kings of the generations of old.
I mean, yeah, I think he's a solid basketball player. He only had, it's only his second year, as you alluded to, and I think Vlade playing with Peja, recognizes the talent that the European market can bring. I think Peja is a part of the organization now in some form or fashion now as well. I could be wrong on that, but I think there's ways where Bogdanovic could potentially slot as a 2 or maybe the 3 if they want to go ahead and be crazy and put Hield at the 2 and slide Bogdanovic down to 3. Because right now I'm not enamored. We even talk about this guy, but I don't believe in Justin Jackson at all, and it's not a knock. I just don't think it's there. And they have Beliza, who's going to go to Europe and came back, and all the stuff that he did there. I think he's more of a stretch 4 than a natural 3. So I think they could have some opportunities there to maybe slog Bogdanovic down a little bit. Not to mention they brought back Ben McLemore. They still have Iman Shumpert as well. There's a lot of guys on this roster where you're just kind of head scratching yourself, like how do they all fit? But I think Bogdanovic is going to be just fine. He's going to get the minutes he needs.
All right, let's go ahead and talk Westgate lines. Jabari, they have the Sacramento Kings at 25.5 wins. Are you taking the over or under?
I think that's right on, and that's tough because, again, it's a matter of, even though they've got some intriguing, names out there. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'd forgotten that Iman Shumpert was on that roster, and that's no disrespect to Iman.
What, you haven't been? You're not watching Basketball Wives of Sacramento? What? Come on, man.
Yeah, I must have missed the most recent episode. No, yeah, but they've got a lot of intriguing names, but I just. You know what? I'm going to be that guy. Everybody can be mad at me at Jabari Davis NBA. I think they're going to be under. And again, it's not because I'm shameless with mine. It's not because I don't appreciate the names and think that there could be some growth. It's simply because I think the West is strong. And you know what? Yeah, it is because I don't appreciate the names and I just don't know yet.
Bar's a wild dude, man. He's a wild dude. I'm gonna jump in though, and I'm gonna go slightly over just to be a little bit different. I mean, and not talking about they're gonna win 32, 34 games. I think they can maybe scrape to 26 and 27. So give them 1 or 2 over. I think hopefully they're gonna get a lot out of Bagley. Hope they're gonna get a lot out of Giles one way or another. And the field takes a step, and if Fox takes a step as well too. And I think Fox has a mentality to be a good player. So I think they may surprise some teams, especially, with some of the talent who the NBA hasn't really seen before, especially with Giles and Bagley coming into the league. I think those guys can really excel. I'm going to go slightly over on Sac, though.
All right, you're tuned to The Baseline. Callie, Warren Shaw discussing the hot button topics of the NBA, our 2018-19 preview of the Pacific Division with our special guest, Jabari Davis, who's helping us break down this division. All right, well, let's talk about the team that finished third. I know everybody's waiting to talk about this team. Probably even the king himself is ready to talk about this team. The Los Angeles Lakers finished the season with a 35-47 record. This is the third season under Luke Walton Shaw, I believe. And look, Magic Johnson's got has the full tools at his disposal. He winds up getting the king. The king comes to LA amidst all of the vandalism and all of the hype and hoopla. Look, he has got himself a motley crew to work with. I should say that for Luke Walton, but I think the bigger question is, whose team really is this? Is this Luke Walton's team, or is this LeBron James's team? Jabari, I'm gonna start with you, man, because while all eyes are gonna be on Los Angeles, I really do feel like this is going to be a pivotal point in the perception of what the Los Angeles Lakers organization, how they prioritize, how they look at free agents, how they look at, you know, um, upper tier, upper echelon athletes, and the kind of head coaches that are going to be along for the ride, so to speak. It's all across the board, man. There's a lot of respect for Luke Walton, but he could be running up against a very, very, very tough task at hand if he has to deal with the likes of a LeBron James.
Well, I mean, look, anytime you have the, whether you want to consider him still the greatest player in the game, currently or not, anytime you have a talent of that nature, an all-time great talent, it's their team. It just is. That's not a slight to Luke Walton, whom I'm actually a big fan of, and I think actually has the right temperament, as well as just overall general life experience to handle this situation perfectly. Now, part of that could be, projection on my part because I'm a believer in what he's got. Everybody in that organization, everybody around the league knows that this team goes as far as LeBron James goes. If you're Luke Walton, you strap in and you get ready for that ride, and you and you do whatever it takes in order to to hold on. But there's no question about whose team.
So here's what I want to ask you. We haven't really had a conversation since all the changes took place. So there's no sense in even going back to what they did last year and where they were, bench scoring and defensive rating and pace. All that gets thrown out the window because LeBron's there now. So it's like you just have you have a shiny new toy, you have the best player in the NBA on your roster. Cool, bet.
And by
We're gonna
every, and
ride
by
with
every
that.
standard, LeBron James changes those metrics. Every aspect of that
So
Los
yeah,
Angeles
we
Lakers
just
offense.
we don't even go back.
Yeah, you can't even go back. It's just kind of like wiping out dude's memory.
Right. So no revisionist history there.
He's the ultimate Men in Black. Yes.
So what I want to ask though is, of all the moves they made, now again, to our listeners, if you don't know, Jabari covers the Lakers pretty extensively, longtime Lakers fan, but no homerism. He's pretty straightforward. Of all the moves they made, Rondo, bringing back KCP, Lance Stevenson, Michael Beasley, letting go Randall, JaVale McGee, which is one of those moves don't you like? Which moves perplexes you the most? You can't tell me, oh, all of these were great decisions to bring around LeBron. One of these had to make your head scratch a little bit.
Well, it isn't that I'm anti Lance or anything like that, but I will tell you I was surprised, given some of their run-ins, given some of the antics, the theatrics, and all of that. To be honest with you, no other way to say it, all of that silliness that they've had in the past, I would have been. I actually was like, wait, LeBron wants to play with him. Everybody made a big deal of the Rondo signing, but I'll be honest with you, I thought that was one of the better signings of the offseason. And I'm talking about for the Lakers. I'm not talking about across the league. But for one, it pushes Lonzo. Two, if Lonzo's going to be out here playing 50 games, you have to have a viable backup or a viable answer at that position. And three, hey, look, I'm a firm believer in iron sharpens iron. And look, everybody who's that were saying stuff like, oh, well, do you want to risk ruining Lonzo's spirits? Hey, look, if your spirits are ruined because you have competition on your team, then you're not that guy. So Lance was the one that surprised me. Rondo was one of the ones that actually I was pleased with.
Well, I don't think a lot of people are giving the move to bring Rajon Rondo on this basketball team the kind of credit that I think it really deserves, because I think that there has to be a balance. Let's not forget that LeBron James, while he enjoys playing with young talent, he also has a very short fuse. He does not have a high level of tolerance for guys that are not picking up things like how he picks up things. And and to me, I think that Rondo is a good buffer. because there's only a few people right now currently in this NBA environment that I think Rondo truly respects that still actively plays the game of basketball, because he damn sure doesn't respect and most like 90 something percent of the head coaches that are out there. So, if you're going to align LeBron James with people, you need to align him not just with, your young like Kyrie Irving, like you got to have some kind of veteran presence, Ray Allen type, Birdman type. You got to put, because a lot of people don't remember how LeBron, enabled himself with the Cleveland Cavaliers. You know, Tristan Thompson didn't alone just amass that a ton of money that he got, just because he was the greatest thing since sliced bread, right? There was a buffer between him and some of the veteran guys that LeBron asked to be on that team to show Tristan Thompson how he needs to play in critical moments during the NBA playoffs and ultimately the NBA finals. And I think that LeBron reads the writing on this wall that if you're going to beat this Golden State Warriors team, because that's all that they're looking at. They're not looking at anyone else in this division. They're looking at the Golden State Warriors. You have very little time to show some of these guys how to be. Their learning curve is way curved, right? So I find it interesting that people aren't talking about this, because to me this is Rondo's Black Mamba right now, is playing next to LeBron James, and it'll be interesting to see how these two guys work things through the course of the year and how that permeates through the rest of that roster.
Well, yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. And, I think Rondo brings something to this team that obviously they didn't have last year, in addition to LeBron. What that kind of goes without saying. But yeah, just a guy who is going to push players, and is going to help guys develop. I think it's going to be an interesting scenario for Luke Walton in general, trying to just work with this mash. But LeBron and Rondo can be pseudo leaders on the floor and in the locker room space as well. Jabari, before we move on, a couple more questions with this team. Just quick hitters here. I want to talk to you about Brandon Ingram or Kyle Kuzma. Who takes the biggest step this season?
I think it's going to be Brandon Ingram, but that's not to say that I'm not anticipating really positive things from Kyle Kuzma, because look, so there are some out there that will tell you that Kyle Kuzma was overhyped last year. Look, I watched every single Lakers game. I don't necessarily agree that he was overhyped, but I will say he's really good at offense, and we always focus on that. Or excuse me, scoring in particular, and we always tend to focus on that. But it looks like in the offseason, he's addressed his body, he's working at addressing some of his shortcomings that he had on the defensive end. But when it comes to Brandon Ingram, look, now I've been a fan for this gentleman, since his days at Duke. So here's one for you, since I am the co-host of Hot Takes and Shot Fakes. I think Brandon Ingram's going to be in the running this year for most improved player. That's where I think he's going to be. I don't know. I'm not guaranteeing. Hey, look, it is what it is. I think he's going to be in that conversation.
And I think that's fair. LeBron has the ability to elevate a lot of players, but I think it's that kind of catch-22 that some players get in. Does he elevate, or does he make you kind of negate simply because he's there, and then you just kind of fall in the background and you don't get to do what you'd ordinarily to do if he was on your roster. So I'm interested to see what happens there. Final one before we move on. I know lots to talk with the team. I have thoughts about KCP versus Josh Hart and what that whole situation is. But I want to ask you this, and it's going to maybe sound a little bit awkward. But who spends more time at the 5 position this year for the Lakers? Is that LeBron, JaVale McGee, or even Zubac coming off the bench?
That's a really good question, honestly, Shaw. That's a really, really good question. But it's because there's no definitive answer there. Like right. JaVale McGee, he's not a guy that plays more than 25 minutes a night. He's probably a guy that's going to play somewhere between 15 and 20 on a lot of nights, and that's okay. Zubac, look, I've wanted to be there with Zoo. Over his first couple of years, he showed some flashes as a rookie. Then came out, slow, like in summer league the next year, and was slowed at the beginning of last year, but then kind of showed some signs as he worked himself into shape over the course of the year. So I would love for him to assert himself. But look. And yes, I do think that you're going to see some of that small ball, LeBron at the 5. But I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't necessarily anticipate seeing that on a necessarily regular basis. I just think it'll be in certain spots and against particular matchups. So for me, I think it's probably going to be like a combination of like JaVale McGee playing there. Hey, you know what? Here's a crazy one for you. depending upon the matchup, you might even see guys like Kyle Kuzma sliding down and playing, the small ball five, or Brandon Ingram sliding down and playing the small ball five. So I think it's going to be a five by committee, honestly.
Whew. All right. And this is why we have Jabari Davis on the show. really, this really should be the Los Angeles Lakers preview. It's like, because I think we can go a full 60 just talking about the Los Angeles Lakers as long as we got you on board, Jay.
You know I could. You know I could.
All right, so let's go ahead and talk Westgate odds here. And when we talk about the Los Angeles Lakers, I mean, clearly with LeBron, we're talking about an above 500 type basketball team because he can't see anything less than that. So I'm gonna start with you, Shaw. They got the Westgate odds at 48.
Whew.
Over or under?
Man, that's optimistic, man. I've seen stuff as like high as 52, 53 wins. It's hard to bet against LeBron. I'm gonna go slightly under. I think they're probably maybe a 46 win team. 48 is I don't know. I think it's gonna be slightly under, or it's gonna be like probably well above. I don't think it's gonna be a middle ground here. So they might be at like 51, 52. But I'm going to go slightly under. Jabari, pretty much know where you're going to go with it, but the floor is yours, brother. Over or under?
All right. Allow me to throw my homer cape on. Honestly, if I thought they were going to stink on it, I would say, yeah, they're going to stink again. But no, hey, look, I believe in LeBron James. I believe in the growth of these younger guys. I'm hoping now. Notice how I switched up the verbiage here. I'm hoping that the mix of guys that they've got around them can kind of catch lightning in a bottle and just work and they have enough shooting. That's something that we didn't touch on. So best case scenario I think is 51 wins, 52 wins. Worst case scenario is probably right around where you said 40. And honestly about 46. I'm gonna take the over and go 49. It's so that folks can call me a homer.
Yeah. All right, Homer. So you're tuned to the Baseline. Callie, Warren Shaw discussing the hot button topics of the NBA as we discuss the Pacific Division for the 2018-2019 season with our special guest Jabari Davis. Be sure to check him out on Twitter at Jabari Davis NBA. Let's go ahead and talk about the team that finished second in that division, and that would be the Los Angeles Clippers. And by all accounts, this has probably been the best job that Doc Rivers has done with the Los Angeles Clippers. Really, I think since he's been the head coach. People can make the argument, this team still 42 and 40 is nothing to laugh at. But I think when you look at the circumstances of how this basketball team kind of imploded, the circumstances with Blake Griffin being moved, now DeAndre Jordan is gone. A lot of this came down to Doc Rivers coaching the team that he has. And, maybe I'm the only, person in the room who will say that. But this was kind of a redemption year for Doc Rivers, especially being stripped of duties as president of basketball operations. And I think there was a lot of speculation about Jerry West getting rid of him. So, Jabari, I'm going to start with you, being that this is the sister basketball team. I know you don't pay attention much in their dollhouse. But what can you talk about when we say Los Angeles Clippers basketball? Can they replicate a season where Doc Rivers' influence and them, even though they've lost DeAndre Jordan, a few other pieces, with the guys that they do have, they can still be competitive in this division?
So, and here's the thing, like all jokes aside, I pay more attention to the Clippers now than I did before. And because at least now they're intrigued, they're interesting to me. Before Lob City, yeah, that was exciting. That was fun. Yay, clap your hands, get all excited, whatever. And then, say goodnight when it comes to the end of April. But at least now, this is more of a Doc Rivers team, a team that he can grind it out with. When it comes down to it, I'm just not a believer in that dual role working. Look, again, not being a hater. If somebody will give you that dual position, that's great. But I respect each position enough to say Doc Rivers, the GM, was absolutely sabotaging Doc Rivers, the coach, for a lot of years.
The health is the biggest concern for this roster all the time. Even when they had Blake and DeAndre and Chris Paul and all that, that seemed to be where they struggled the most. And they still have guys like Gallinari, who's injured every single year. Even Pat Beverly has his issues. Theodosis had issues with plantar fasciitis last year and ankles and everything like that. This is a team that really needs their health. I'm glad they brought back Mamute to kind of help them defensively. They struggled defensively a lot last year, and they're going to struggle a lot more with not having DeAndre there to kind of clog things up in the middle, and clean up some of the mistakes that the wings are definitely going to make. Gortat, uh, not a great help defender, but we'll see, what he still has left in the tank. I wonder if he is going to be the starting center come, maybe even mid-January, or does Montrezl Harrell kind of take that role from him? Still interested to see if Marjanovic can do anything in plus minutes, or if Doc would even assign him those minutes. But I think one of the big keys to this team is going to be Avery Bradley and Lou Williams in the backcourt. I think those are two guys who can play well off of each other. Bradley didn't get the money he was expecting to get, especially after leaving Boston. I remember I spoke to him. I've talked about it on the podcast before, and I got the sense from when I spoke to him that he really was expecting and looking for a big payday, and things just didn't work out when he went to Detroit and was under Van Gundy. Then got hurt when he got to LA and just never really got his legs, and it's unfortunate. So I think he's going to be looking for a huge bounce back year. And Lou Williams coming off Sixth Man of the Year. I think those are probably like the shining lights of this team because and not again. No disrespect to Tobias Harris because I think he's a very, very good basketball player as well too, and could have a great, great season. But Gallo's going to go down again at some point. So we'll see what that ends up yielding for Doc Rivers on this basketball team this upcoming season.
There's so many question marks with this basketball team, and I even say that from a health perspective. Patrick Beverley has not been healthy. Avery Bradley, for the most, for many times, has not been healthy. Gallinari has not been healthy. To me, this is just what accentuates into Jabari's point about this team just being an interesting basketball team, because this really does come down to how Doc Rivers handles this roster, who he puts in position, and what kind of lineups he's throwing out there on a night in, night out basis that has these guys playing at a high level. I will say this much. People should not sleep on this Los Angeles Clippers team, because the way things are situated in the Western Conference to our overall evaluation about the haves and have-nots, this Los Angeles Clippers team could be one of those teams that can disrupt the flow of our expectations of the top 8 seeds in the Western Conference. So much so that they could be one of those teams that are just hanging around, up until maybe the last couple of weeks of the season, and they position themselves somewhere where they may actually try to make a play for it. They could do something, by trade deadline to try to make some kind of move. But this is, to me, again, one of those scenarios that a lot of teams may take a step back, and the Clippers have been over the last couple of seasons, that type of team that takes advantage of these situations and scenarios where you look at them and they're saying they have no business being competitive or even being in the conversation of being a playoff type of team. And yet Doc Rivers finds a way to get these guys to play a good enough string of games where they're winding up in that kind of conversation. All right, well, let's talk Westgate odds now. Shaw, they have the Los Angeles Clippers at 36.5, over or under on the amount of wins that the Clippers will get this season.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm going to contradict myself here a little bit. Oh, the West is tougher, so everyone should be down a little bit. I'm good, but I'm going to err on a little bit for Doc here, and hopefully maybe these guys stay healthy enough to maybe get them off to a good start. So you get Gallo going, you get Pat Beverly going, and Mamute. Beverly and Mamute alone should help them defensively and get them up to a certain level of speed. Not quite sure where Gortat is going to fit in this because this isn't a team that is fast-paced, but can they really throw the ball down to him and get some baskets? But I still feel like Doc is doing a good enough job to figure out a way to make it happen. Tobias Harris is a great basketball player as well. I'm going to give them slightly over, maybe at 39-ish wins.
I'm right there on the same page with them, and to be honest with you, and this will tell you how how I'm not being a homer, specifically because it isn't like I've ever expressed any type of love for these Los Angeles Clippers. I think they're going to be slightly better than that. I think they're going to be. I think if all goes well, it would not shock me to see them right around 39-40 wins. The worst case scenario, of course, if the bottom falls out, from a physical perspective, you never know. But I really do think, I think we're all in agreement. They're going to be competitive. There's more than enough talent out there to work with, and if Doc can simply replicate, some of what he had going last year, I think they're going to be right there. So I'm going with you.
All right, well, there you have it. Los Angeles Clippers might actually be a little bit more competitive than people are going to give them credit for. You're tuned to The Baseline. Cal Lee, Warren Shaw, discussing the hot button topics of the NBA. Our 2018-19 preview of the Pacific Division. One team left to discuss, and of course, that's the team that won the championship last year, and that was the Golden State Warriors, finishing with a 58-24 record. Look, the same old jokers are still going to be on that basketball team, and there's very little doubt about their ability to replicate what they did this season, and if not, do even more damage for this upcoming season. However, because LeBron James is now in their division, it does make watching the Golden State Warriors Laker matchups a little bit more interesting now. So, with that being said, Jabari, I'm going to start with you when we talk about this. Look, while everything is all hokey dory, this is a team that has won 3 championships in the last 4 years. You're starting to begin to wonder if whether or not the armor's starting to wear thin and if guys are starting to itch in that armor. Are we talking about that with this Golden State Warriors team, or do you still sense a level of hunger? They still believe that in this quote unquote dynasty-like type of way they go about doing their business.
See, the thing of it is that, I mean, it'll sound like I'm straddling the fence, but both. And here's the reason. We saw them coast through the regular season last year. They coasted through and still won, if I'm not, 60 games, right around there. And simply got better. They're back healthy. They got practically, obviously they bring in Boogie. Who knows what that's going to be until he's completely ready. But then once he's ready, hey, they also got Boogie. Back healthy, Patrick McCall. Kevon Looney, played big minutes for them, like down the stretch and in the postseason. So you would imagine there'd be some growth there. Once we get to the postseason, and I know that we're just doing a season preview, but again, once we get to the postseason, I don't have any doubt about this team because, look, basketball, there's only five. You can only put 5 guys out there. Your rotation is only going to be 7, 8 guys. They've got 10 guys that are that are NBA guys, and they've got all timers at the top of their lineup. So not to be boring, but I expect more of the same from these Warriors. I'd love to see somebody truly challenge them, but I'm not necessarily anticipating that.
Yeah, and for me, like I said, this is just not a team we spend a whole lot of time on. Sorry, Warriors fans.
Wow,
I mean, it's just
disrespect.
It's just, I mean, but what do you say? They're damn good. I mean, their 2K ratings are like, oh, everyone's above 90 and shit. Like, it's stupid. It's just, what is the point? I think of even, really like going in depth into this. And as Jabari said, at the end of the day, they can coast along and then they get Cousins back healthy at some point as well, too. I think the most interesting question about this team is like, okay, well, while Cousins out, who is the starting center? Do they start Kevon Looney? Do they start Jordan Bell? Who I think is still an emerging talent. Damian Jones, does he get an opportunity to run there? I even like the little small move they did in bringing Jerebko, over from Utah. Give them some more shooting and some spacing, in certain lineups that they want to run out there. They don't really miss many steps when it comes to the roster construction of this team, and just what they are in terms of elite level talent. So for me, again, much and more of the same of just great Warriors basketball, and I expected them to do a lot of the coasting that they did last year as well too.
Well, but here's the thing. We talk about how
you all like to pick on them.
No.
You do. You like to pick on the Warriors.
Well, I like to pick on the Warriors because I like to make sure that there's some form of an interesting storyline, or else what is the whole point of us doing this preview? Like, seriously, like, I mean, no, and Jabari, I really want to get your take on this because maybe in a way we can kind of bring all of these other teams that we did this preview on. What are most of these teams aspiring to be? Are they aspiring to beat the Golden State Warriors? Or, is it like a pipe dream when teams like the Sacramento Kings and the Phoenix Suns? Our dream is to beat the Golden State Warriors. I mean, what are you smoking, right? Like, if you can't even get past 30 wins a season, how can you tell me that you're going to be built to try and beat the Golden State Warriors or even try to be like the Golden State Warriors? And I guess my whole way of thinking is did the Houston Rockets get it right in the way that they approached trying to beat the Golden State Warriors? Because I think that this has been a gradual process. I don't think it was just something that happened overnight for these guys. And I get this feeling like while we still talk about how invincible this team is still very much vulnerable. There's still aspects to the Golden State Warriors game that I just don't think teams spend enough commitment to holding them against the fire on, than assuming that these guys are just sleeping through what they're doing. It's just interesting to me, or maybe I'm just, I really am trying to believe too much that there can be a team out there that tries to challenge this Golden State Warriors team.
Yeah, okay, and again, I know my answer was kind of boring, and it definitely came across as dismissive. But the truth of the matter is this: we just saw a series where they were down. We just saw a 7-game series where they were down. Not just down in the series, but down, late in that game 6. Who knows what would have happened if Chris Paul had been there? I can't. I'm not one of those people that says, "Oh, it's a guarantee they would have won," but it certainly looked like a possibility. Now, here's like if you're a team like Sacramento, you know, your NBA championship is if you could beat them in a random game, like midway through the season. You're not looking at them as oh, realistically, we think we can defeat them in a 7 game series, or we'll get anywhere near that opportunity. But if you're a team like Houston, or maybe the Jazz, it depends on how high you are on them, or any of the other what will eventually be the upper seeds out west. If you're within reach, the hope, and I hate to say it like this, is that you can catch them much like Houston did. But if everyone's there, it's just difficult for me to see, honestly, a team beating them in a 7 game series. Yes, you can catch them on the second night of a back to back or over the course of a stretch, but beating this team with everybody there, with the depth that they continue to add, it's look. Not saying it's impossible. I'm just not holding my breath.
Well, I think the biggest issue that I have when it comes to taking them down is that I feel like they addressed one of the needs they needed to have. And while that need may not be fully healthy at the beginning of the year, you always feel like you could beat them up inside and maybe you could out rebound them, even get some offensive rebounds and putbacks. And now they get Cousins out there to go alongside another plus rebounder and Draymond Green. Still have Jordan Bell trying to develop as well too in those areas. So I do feel like it's very very difficult, and you do have to play perfect basketball. And I think the team that had the best shot of doing that in Houston regressed, and they're not as good as they were last year. And you're right, 100%. Chris Paul's hamstring. We've talked about it at nauseum on the show. What if? But now it's a different season, and I think the only thing that can really stop Golden State when it comes to playoff performances is actually going to be health. And like I said, they do need Iguodala. They do need Sean Livingston. Even they need all those pieces to be right. But I think if they are, it really is you're swimming upstream.
All right, well, let's go ahead and talk Westgate odds then. I'm going to start with you, Shaw. Golden State Warriors are at 62.5. We taking the over and under on the Golden State Warriors season.
Even with Cousins, I still think they're going to be too bored, to reach the 60 win mark. I think they were at 58 wins last year, 58 and 24. So while I know Cousins healthy is good for 5-6 more wins, I don't think he's going to be right, and they have no reason to push him. I'm going to go, slightly under that, and I think they'll probably be at maybe 59 wins or something like that. But the regular season has nothing to do with what the Golden State Warriors are actually trying to do.
I pretty much can just say what he said. Seriously, they've got enough talent. If they want to win 65 games, they could do that. If they want to win 70 games, they could do that. If they want to win 75, they might even be able to do that. I know that sounds crazy, but it is what it is. This is a group that with sans Kevin Durant won 73 at a certain point a few years back. But to the point that I agree with. I don't think they're going to be taking this all that seriously. They're not going to just be playing around, but I don't think they're going to press and push the way that they would need to in order to do that. So I think 59-60 is right on the money. But hey, look, if they ended up winning, like I said, a half a dozen more than that, of course it wouldn't be a shock.
All right, well, let's go ahead and transition ourselves right into it. We're going to talk about who's going to finish at the bottom and who's going to finish at the top of this division. And so I'm going to start with you first, Jabari. From bottom to top, how are we rounding out the Pacific Division for the 2018-2019 season?
Again, no disrespect to these teams that are at the bottom. It's simply a matter of the haves and have-nots. Some of y'all are still just in transition. I think it's going to be the Kings at the bottom. I think the Suns are going to be right above that. I think it's going to be then followed by the Clippers, very competitive Clippers team, followed by the Lakers, and then of course, obviously the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go with Phoenix at the bottom, Sacto right there. Clippers coming in third. You have to think the Lakers are going to take a huge step forward, so they're going to be second, and Golden State kind of running away with this division by All-Star break.
I see this pretty similar to Shaw, where I'm not completely convinced about the Phoenix Suns being as talented or being more talented than the Sacramento Kings. I think the Kings have enough talent. And with Dave Yeager as a head coach, I think that they can still get somewhere, maybe 1 or 2 wins more than what they did last season. At the expense of the Phoenix Suns, the fact that that Devin Booker might be out of the beginning of the season, I think doesn't help them, certainly. And until we get clarity about their starting lineup, I think that might also attribute to where I don't have as much confidence of them getting out of the cellar of the Pacific. So I have the Phoenix Suns at last, Sacramento finishing fourth. I have the Los Angeles Clippers finishing third. And clearly, the Los Angeles Lakers are going to be a much improved team, but they will not be better than the Golden State Warriors, even with LeBron James. And that clearly means that the Golden State Warriors walk away with this division one more again. Wow. What a hell of a division preview. Look, as much as people are going to probably be knocking the fact that again the Golden State Warriors are going to be walking out with the trophy, you have to be impressed with the overall talent that may be emanating from out of this division. I mean, there can be a lot of exciting basketball being played, even from the lesser teams like the Phoenix Suns and the Sacramento Kings. Jabari, man, we appreciate you so much for helping us dig in a little bit. And yes, you are so much not a homer in helping us do this preview this time around, man.
Thanks, man. Thanks a lot. You know me. Anytime you guys call, I'm down. I love talking basketball, and I definitely love talking with like knowledgeable folks like yourself. You guys are great.
Most definitely. You're tuned to the Baseline. Callie, Warren Shaw, we appreciate each and every single one of you for hopping on board with us as we gave you the preview for the 2018-2019 Pacific Division. And we'll catch up with you next time.